Awesome.
We will start now.
Sure.
So, good morning, friends and participants. Today for this day 2 and second session. So, today we have with us Dr. O.R. Jaiswal, Professor, Department of Applied Mechanics, Vishweshwarya National Institute of Technology, popularly known as VNIT, Nagpur. So, first I will invite Dr. Harle sir to introduce the today's speaker, and then we will start the session with Dr. O.R. Jaiswal sir.
Thank you, Khanwe sir. Welcome you all to second session of AICD sponsored 1 week short-term training program on computational intelligence in artificial design. In this session, we have with us Dr. O.R. Jaiswal sir, who is professor from Department of Applied Mechanics, VNIT Nagpur. We are glad to have you with us, sir. He has completed his UG from VRC Nagpur in 1987, MSc by research from IISc in 1991, PhD from IISc Bangalore from 1995. He has vast academic teaching experience, which is from Central Building Research Institute. He has started from 1994. Then Engineering Mechanics Research Center, Bangalore, University of Liverpool, UK, Visvesvaraya Regional College of Engineering, Nagpur. There he joined as a lecturer, and now he is a professor in the same institute, VNIT Nagpur. He has published around 19 research papers in international journal, 15 international conferences, 8 in national journal. He has supervised around 6 PhD students and 2 is ongoing. He has also completed around 60 under his guidance, around 60 MTech projects, out of which 3 MTech projects have received Best MTech Project Award by the National Information Center of Earthwork Engineering, IIT Kanpur, while 1 MTech project got commendation certificate by Indian Society for Wind Engineering in 2008. He has completed many research projects too, which consist of tuned mass dampers for building in 2003 under MHRD, then seismic response control of elevated water tank, guidelines for seismic analysis of liquid storage tank, wind response control of tall RC chimneys, development of explanatory examples for IS 1893, IS 13902, that is from IIT Gandhinagar. Is having research interest with earthquake analysis of structures, tuned mass dampers, stability of shales, wind response of tall chimneys, elevated water tank, railway bridges, etc. Also completed consultancy projects just like design of telephone exchange building at Bangalore, vibration testing for GI wall for nuclear units, NECO Industries, Nagpur, structural design checking of water tank for government of Maharashtra, etc. He has membership with the Institution of Engineers, Indian Society for Earthwork Technology, Indian Society for Technical Education, Indian Association for Computational Mechanics, Indian Association for Structural Engineering, VRC Alumni Association as well. Other achievement consists of is a member of Indian Standard on seismic design, as well as member of UG Admission Committee. Well, he was a member of Bureau of Indian Standard, that is Committee BIS. Awarded INEA Fellowship for Mentoring Program in 2008-2009. Then he is an executive committee member of the Indian Society for Wind Engineering. He is in charge UG Admissions Committee, member of Core Committee of Central Counseling Board, VNIT Nagpur. He was also head of the Applied Mechanics Department from 2010 to 2012. He was Dean Academic at VNIT from 2013 to 2016. He was also Professor in charge of Student Mentor Program 2016 to 2018. We are glad to have you with us, sir. So today's speaker, that is Dr. O.R. Jaiswal, sir. And I would like to request sir to please start the session.
Thank you, Shrikant. So, very elaborate introduction. I noted that you prepared a slide for that also.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Quite nice of you. Okay. Now, now my screen is visible?
No, sir. You need to
No, sir. Please
again
share.
this.
I will have to share. I'll share.
Now visible. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You
So
can start.
nice. Yeah. So, dear participants, I am happy to carry forward this discussion under this course on earthquake analysis of various structures. As I have seen from the schedule and as Professor Khandwe had earlier discussed with me, so far introduction to seismology has been given. Then earthquake resistant design code in India, they are being discussed. Yesterday you had a talk on IS 1893 part 1. That was that part 1 contains some general provisions like seismic zone map of India, response spectra to be used for design of various structure load combinations. And then in IS 1893 part 1, the second section is on buildings. Okay? How to design buildings, how to calculate earthquake load for buildings. Now, in continuation of that, today I am going to discuss with you for another 45 minutes, part 2, which deals with the water tanks, so to say, or in general, liquid storage tanks. Okay. So, this presentation will be something like this: general issues, different parts of building, how it is done, and then what is the difference between, or what are the additional issues or special issues in water tank or liquid storage tanks. Okay. Then step by step we will discuss 1893 part 2 provisions. Okay. Along with part 2 provision, we should also be aware of another document which is known as IIT SDMA guideline. It is available on the website. Okay. So in addition to provisions of 1893 part 2, okay, I will tell you a few things about this GSDMA document also. Now this is what, since yesterday you must have been listening to, that somewhere below our feet something gets ruptured. Okay. And because of that, seismic waves get generated, and then those waves travel, and wherever our structure is at that point we feel the ground shaking. Okay. So at a particular place, somewhere here, let us say, but this location, if you record the ground motion, the horizontal component of ground motion would look like this graph. On x-axis we have time, on y-axis we have ground acceleration. Okay, so it is quite random. Okay, and then it starts slowly, then picks up, and then again it dies down. Typically an earthquake lasts for 30 seconds. Okay, and depending on the other characteristics of the source, the duration of shaking at a particular location could be longer than that also. Okay. So structure has to sustain this ground shaking. The structure has to sustain this ground shaking. This ground shaking, for our convenience, for engineering purpose, we divide it into three components: two horizontal components and one vertical component. Okay, the horizontal components are more critical. They are more critical. Okay, vertical component is also important, but the fact remains that dead load and lie load are the loads in vertical direction already. So structure has already been designed for certain loads in vertical direction, that is dead load and lie load. And is it okay? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are
It
audible.
is very clear.
Okay, good, good. So already in vertical direction, we have dead load, lie load, okay? And in terms of acceleration, if I have to tell, then I can say that in vertical direction, structure has already been designed for 1g acceleration, 1g acceleration, because dead load is nothing but mass of the structure into 9.81 meter per second square. Okay, so over and above 1g, if there is some more ground shaking in vertical direction, the structure should be reasonably able to sustain it. Okay, that is the reason why we say that horizontal components are more important or more critical to us than vertical component. But for long span structures, okay, vertical component is equally important. Okay, so earthquake load on a structure is nothing but mass of the structure into acceleration. Which acceleration? Acceleration due to ground shaking. Acceleration due to ground shaking. Okay, so if ground shaking is in horizontal direction, then FH, H is horizontal force acting on the structure will be acceleration of the structure into its mass. Where from this acceleration will come? This acceleration will come because of ground shaking. Okay, so we have to design the structure, okay, to reasonably sustain this much horizontal load. Since ground acceleration will be changing with time, structure's acceleration will be changing with time, this force will be dynamic in nature. Okay, so 1893, it helps us in calculating this earthquake force, okay, which will be exerting on the structure. Now things are very simple. Okay, Newton's second law of motion, mass into acceleration. We divide acceleration by g, multiply mass by g. So multiply, divide by g. Mass into g is w. Alpha by g is a non-dimensional parameter. Alpha is acceleration, g is also acceleration. So this same formula IS 1893 has given. Same formula IS 1893 has given, that total earthquake force acting on a structure is nothing but, instead of alpha by g, they have written ah into w. And this ah is design horizontal seismic coefficient. And since code has to be very general, that's why this ah consists of three parts. Z by 2, that is zone. Okay, I by R is design philosophy. I is importance factor, R is response reduction factor, and SA by G is structural characteristics. Okay, so this is given in IS 1893 part 1. Okay, now this IS 1893, its brief history is like this. First time it was proposed in 1962, then it got revised. First revision in 66, second revision in 1970, third revision in 75, fourth revision in 84, and fifth revision came in 2002. And in 2002, this code has been split into 5 parts. For different structure, there are different parts. Okay, so part 1, which contains general provision and buildings, was first published in 2002 and subsequently has been revised in 2016. Liquid retaining tanks, the code which we are going to discuss today, has been published in 2014. Bridges and retaining wall, part 3 has been published in 2015. Part 4, which deals with industrial structure, was published in 2005 and revised in 2013. Part 5 is written here in red color. It is yet to be published, but its draft is under circulation. Okay, so in part 1, okay, it's general provisions of part 1. They are common to all the codes. Okay, that means seismic zone map will be common to them, response spectra will be common to them, load combination, damping, those things will be common to all other parts. Okay, so while we are discussing part 2, we will take seismic zone map, response spectra, load combinations from part 1, Okay, and in part 2 now, what is it we have to discuss, or what it has to contain separately for liquid storage tanks or for water tank is importance factor, response reduction factor, and how to handle the sloshing or how to handle the liquid modeling. Okay, those are the additional issues which we have to handle in this. Okay, so for buildings, we have this, okay, formula. In fact, this formula is common for all structures. Okay, so SA by G comes from response spectra. Okay, it comes from response spectra. To use response spectra, you should know time period of your structure. So once you know time period of your structure, then depending on which soil your structure is resting, you can read the value of SA by G. Okay, that is how. For building, time period is 0.09 H by root D. Okay, for building with infill. For bare frame, there are different formulas. Z comes from zone map. Zone map is given this one. Okay, I is importance factor, R is response reduction factor. Okay. Then for building, whatever total force we calculate, it is distributed to various floors in proportion to, or let us say in second order distribution or parabolic distribution, Wi Hi square, where Hi is the height of various floors from the bottom level. Okay, so that is how for building it is calculated. So for building, if somebody is using equivalent static analysis, things are like this. First you calculate time period, then go to response spectra, calculate SA by G, wherever you are, depending on that, find out the Z value, depending on importance and characteristics of the structure, get I and R and obtain this V or VB base shear, and then distribute vertically to various floors. If somebody is doing response spectrum analysis, then first you have to model a discrete model of this building. Okay, and then find out the natural frequency from model analysis. For different natural frequencies or natural periods, calculate the value of SA by G. Okay, and then calculate earthquake force at different level in different modes, and then combine them using any model combination, and then get this. Okay, so two methods are given. One is equivalent static analysis, one is response spectrum analysis. Okay, for buildings. Okay, now we come to part 2, that is for liquid storage tanks. Okay, this is the front page of this structure, this code. Okay, now in part 2, what has been given, that first it deals with the spring mass model, that is how to model the liquid, how to handle the liquid. Okay, during ground shaking, liquid will slosh. So convective mode or this thing. Okay, damping, what will be importance factor for water tank, what will be response reduction factor, and hydrodynamic pressure. Okay, those things are given, and then there are some miscellaneous provisions like buckling of shells, buried tanks. Okay, and then there is a section on aesthetics. Okay, water tanks, they are visible from a distance, so they should look reasonably good. Okay, and then there are some clauses given on quality control in RC tanks. Okay, because they are important structures, so some provisions, okay, are given here so that minimum quality of construction can be ensured for RC tanks. Those are given. Okay, so earthquake design force, this we have seen. Okay, now for buildings, okay, we have seen I is 1.5 for important buildings, and it is 1 for other buildings. There is 1.2 also for community buildings with more than 200 people staying. And response reduction factor R for building, okay, we have seen there are 2 values of R. For RC special moment resisting frame, that is those frames which follow 13920, R will be 5. If RC frame doesn't follow 13920 but follows only 456, then R value will be 3. Okay, but then for other types of brick masonry structure and other things, lower and lower values of R are given. Now for water tanks, okay, for water tanks, is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Because there was some change here, so I thought. Okay. Now for water tank, what will be the issues? Time period. Now 0.09 H by root D can be used for water tank. It is only for building. Okay. Then what will be the time period of water tank? How to calculate it? Importance factor, response reduction factor, and damping issues for water tank. Okay. So when water tank is subjected to ground shaking, liquid slosh. Okay, so sloshing, you have to see how to calculate sloshing mass. Okay, then how to decide R values. Okay. Now 1893 part 2 has been published in 2014. Okay, and the document is largely based on IITK GSDMA guideline. This IITK GSDMA guideline means IIT Kanpur, and GSDMA means Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority. They together were involved in developing some seismic code-like documents, okay, or guidelines. Okay, so one such guideline was devoted to water tank. So IITK GSDMA guideline on tank was first published in 2005, and then it was revised in 2007. And based on this document only, IS 1893 Part 2 is prepared. IITK GSDMA document is freely available on NICE website. It's freely available on NICE website, nicee.org. You can download it from there. Okay. So these two documents side by side, their front page is here. This is 1893 Part 2, and this is IITK GSDMA guideline. Now, various types of tanks which are considered here: a ground supported RCC tank, ground supported steel tank, elevated tank on RCC frame, elevated tank on shaft, and underground tanks. Okay, largely these are the broad types of tanks which we have to address. Okay, so ground supported tank can be RC also, steel also. Elevated tank can have RC frame staging or steel frame staging. It can have RC shaft staging, and then underground tanks. Underground could be steel tank or it could be RCC tank also. Now, sloshing. Okay. So when there is a ground shaking like this liquid will slosh. Top portion of the liquid will slosh. Okay. Now, because of this sloshing, what will happen? Wall will be subjected to dynamic pressure. Okay, sometimes this side, sometimes this side. Okay, so pressure on the wall will be dynamic in nature. Okay, when there is no shaking, still there is a pressure on the wall. Still there is a pressure on the wall, but that is hydrostatic pressure. Hydrostatic pressure. But once there is a shaking, and when liquid sloshes or liquid shakes, okay, the pressure exerted on the wall will be hydrodynamic. Hydrodynamic. In static condition, it is hydrostatic. So this is hydrostatic force. Okay, it linearly increases. Okay, and if it is circular in all directions, okay, pressure will be there. So net summation of this pressure in any direction will be 0. So a static tank, a static, let us say, water bottle kept on the table is stable, because though there is a horizontal pressure on wall, but horizontal pressure is in every direction. So it balances each other. Okay. But as soon as there is a ground shaking, suppose ground goes in this direction, entire liquid will get pushed in this direction. There are the arrows shown in this direction, and wall here will be subjected to additional pressure, and wall on this side will be subjected to lower pressure. Okay. So once there is a ground shaking like this, there is a hydrodynamic pressure on the wall, and if you take the summation of this hydrodynamic pressure F, okay, this is the force which will act on the wall because of the liquid. This is the pressure distribution in plan. Okay, so pressure at this 90-degree angle will be 0, and it will be maximum at this point and this point. Okay, so when there is a shaking, net horizontal pressure acting on the wall, its net summation won't be 0. Okay, so now what happens when there is a ground shaking? Liquid will slosh. Now, how much liquid will slosh? That we have to decide. Okay, sloshing liquid is known as convective liquid. Okay, and there is some portion of the liquid which doesn't slosh. It remains like a rigid liquid. It vibrates along with the wall. That is known as impulsive liquid. Okay, now this is water, let us say. Okay, that is that some portion is sloshing and rest of the portion is not sloshing. Had this tank been filled with ice, there would not have been any sloshing. Then everything would have been impulsive. Ice would have moved along with the tank wall. But since water shear resistance of water is 0, some water moves relative to the tank, okay, and this portion will slosh. Okay. Now, what we have to decide from earthquake design point of view, that how much liquid will slosh and how much pressure will it exert on the wall. Similarly, how much will be impulsive liquid and what type of force or pressure it will exert on the wall. Way back in 1963, Hausner proposed a theory for this, okay, and based on Euler, based on Bernoulli equation of liquid and other things, okay, they have calculated that how much liquid will go under sloshing, how much liquid will remain as impulsive, okay. So impulsive liquid will exert pressure something like this. Pressure increases as you go to the bottom. Convective part, there will be more pressure on the top, okay, and as you go to the bottom, pressure will reduce, okay. So qualitatively, impulsive pressure distribution will be like this, convective pressure distribution will be like this, okay. So these two liquid parts we have to calculate. So what Hausner proposed was something like this, that total liquid mass M will get divided in two parts. One is MC, convective mass, and second is MI, rigid mass. Rigid mass means the mass which will vibrate along with the tank wall, and C, convective, means mass which will vibrate relative to that, okay, sloshing mass. And that is how the sloshing mass is attached to the wall with a spring, so there will be relative displacement, whereas impulsive mass is attached with rigid rods, okay, so it will move along with this thing, and there will be some height at which this will act, okay, MI and MC. This height will depend on where the resultant of impulsive pressure will act and where the resultant of convective hydrodynamic pressure will act, okay. Now with all those calculations and other things which Hausner has done, some very simple charts have been proposed, okay. Now what are these charts? H by D is on the x-axis. H is the height of the liquid, D is the diameter of the tank for circular tank, and this solid line is having MI by M. This dash line is MC by M. So if your H by D is 1, then you will have this much MC by M value, and you will have this much value of MI by M, okay. MI by M plus MC by M should be equal to M, okay, because MI plus MC is equal to M, okay. Similarly, in this graph, this Kc H by Mg can be also obtained as a function of H by D, which helps us in knowing the Kc value. Kc is this spring stiffness here, okay. So this is a colorful representation of same graph, MC by M, MI by M, okay. Now in IS 1893, these graphs are given, okay. In fact, this previous figure which I have shown is from IS 1893. This colorification has been done by presentation, okay. However, in IITK GSDMA guideline, this formula for MI by M is also given. There is a formula, okay. This formula was derived by Hausner. Okay. So if somebody is having design Excel sheets, you can directly add these formulas, so that for a given H by D, you will directly know MI by M and MC by M, okay. So now how much liquid will undergo sloshing, how much liquid will undergo impulsive motion depends on H by D. Now what is H by D? Aspect ratio of this tank, okay. If H by D is less, that means this case, H by D is less, H is less, D is more, H by D is more in the second case, tall tank, okay. So if H by D is less, MI is less, MC is more. So more and more liquid undergoes sloshing. If H by D is more, MC by M reduces, MI by M increases, okay. So for taller tanks, sloshing is less, sloshing liquid is less. For shallower tanks, sloshing liquid is more, okay. That is obvious, okay. If tank depth is, water depth is less, then more sloshing will occur, okay. So that is how this goes, okay. So this is the colored graph, okay. Similarly for rectangular tank, H by L, okay. So H by L, these things are given, and then formulas are given for MI by M, MC by M for both rectangular as well as circular tank. Now, at what height it will act, okay. So this whole pressure can be obtained using that, as I said, hydrodynamic pressure distribution can be obtained, and resultant of that pressure will be this, okay. And this will act at height HI. And similarly for sloshing liquid or convective liquid will act at height HC, okay. Now there is one more issue involved in sloshing business, okay. When entire liquid, suppose ground moves in this direction, entire liquid goes in opposite direction, opposite direction. While liquid goes in the direction, the vertical pressure on the slab, that also changes. There will be more vertical pressure on this side, there will be less vertical pressure on this side. Okay. So as far as overturning of the tank is concerned, or net horizontal moment on the tank wall is concerned, okay, there will be net horizontal force which will give rise to a overturning moment. Okay. Similarly, because of this differential pressure distribution on horizontal slab, okay, there will be equal and opposite forces acting, which will also add to the overturning. So there are two heights given. There are two heights given. Okay. One is including the base pressure, the height at which impulsive force will act is HI star, or if you neglect the difference in vertical pressure on the slab, then it is HI. So HI and HI star, two heights are given, okay, and it is related to the inclusion of difference in vertical pressure on the horizontal slab, which leads to overturning, okay, tendency of the tank. Okay, so graphs are given for calculating HI, HC, HI star, HC star. Okay, so all these things are given. Formulas are also given for them: HI, HI star, HC, HC star. Okay, so once this liquid model is ready, ready means what? You know MI, you know MC, you know KC, you know HI, you know HI star, HC and HC star. Everything is known either from those graphs or from the expressions given. Then rest of it is now the same as what we have done for building. Total force is mass into acceleration. Okay. Now we have sloshing. Okay. So for sloshing, we know MC and KC. So time period of sloshing can be obtained. Okay. So since expression for MC and MI, since expressions for MC and MI are known, they can be added here. Okay. They can be added here. And this formula has been simplified like this: Cc into under root d by g. So for Cc, there is an expression given, and that Cc has been plotted here as a function of h by L or h by d, depending on which type of tank we are talking about, okay, either circular or rectangular. So sloshing time period can be easily obtained using this value of Cc and Cc into d by g. Okay. Now, for ground supported tank, okay, ground supported tank, okay, flexibility of the wall, that also needs to be included. So there is a formula given like this, okay, that impulsive time period of circular water tank resting on the ground, okay, is given by this: h under root rho. Rho is the mass density of liquid, t is the thickness of the wall, d is the diameter, under root e is Young's modulus of concrete or tank material. Okay, and Ci is a coefficient for which there is a formula given. Okay, now this formula is based on shell theory. Okay, for a circular cylinder filled with liquid, you can derive the formula for its flexibility or for its natural frequency or natural period. Okay, so this formula should be used when tank is full. Okay, there should not be much difference between height of the tank and height of the liquid. Okay, so this formula cannot be used if there is only 50% liquid is present. Okay, so this is for the tank full condition. Okay, for ground supported tank. For elevated water tank, time period will be given by 2 pi under root m by k, the classical formula. Okay, this 2 pi under root m by k. Okay, now what is m? M here consists of Mi, that is impulsive mass, plus structural mass of tank, and Ks is the stiffness of the staging. Now, once you know, okay, once you know the time period of impulsive mode and time period of convective mode, you can read the value of SA by G for both of them. Once you read the value of SA by G, you can calculate AH corresponding to impulsive, AH corresponding to convective, multiply them by respective weights. Wi is impulsive weight, Wc is convective weight, and then you will get two horizontal forces, impulsive force and convective force. Okay, like this. Okay, and then add both of them using SRSS. Okay, where they are reasonably well separated, so SRSS can be used. SRSS means square root of sum of squares. Okay, so Vi and Vc, they need to be combined like this using SRSS. So we have these two masses, okay, and the time periods are different, okay, for elevated tanks. Now we will talk about how to calculate time period of elevated tank. This previous formula which we have is this formula, okay. Now in elevated tank, this is the schematic representation. You have MC, you have MI. Now, in addition to MI, you have weight of the container, you have weight of the staging. Okay. So basically, KS is the stiffness of the staging, and KC is the stiffness of the sloshing. So it is actually 2 degree of freedom system, but since sloshing time period is very large as compared to impulsive time period, that's how there is an approximation, so to say, okay, or a simplification, that this 2 degree of freedom system can be treated as 2 single degree of freedom systems, 2 single degree of freedom system, where in MC, KC, they are fixed at the base, and this MI, MS, and KS, they are another, okay. This is a reasonable simplification if TC, that is time period of sloshing, is larger than Ti, okay. And this MS is mass of container, this MS is mass of container plus 1/3 mass of staging, okay. So you can calculate like this, okay, and KS can be obtained from some simple structural analysis. You apply force P on the staging, calculate delta. So P by delta is the stiffness staging, okay. Lateral load analysis will have to be done to calculate stiffness of the staging. Now see, in building we had a very simple formula, 0.09 H by root D. That formula is not applicable for water tank, obviously, and for water tank there is no such simple formula. So for water tank, you have to calculate the time period from the basics of structural dynamics. That is, natural frequency is under root K by M, and time period is 2 by under root M by K. So obtain K from static analysis, okay, wherein you apply a force at the center of gravity and get the delta at center of gravity, okay. So stiffness, once you know, MI is known, structural mass also can be obtained. So difference between time period of elevated tank and building, okay. For building there is an empirical formula, whereas for water tank you have to calculate it using the fundamentals of the mechanics. Now once that is done, then you have two forces, okay. AHI, impulsive, AHC, that is because of convective, and then is both these things should be added, okay. Now one issue will come here, damping, okay, damping. Now for impulsive mode, okay, the way it is written in the code, okay, this code was in 2014. Please note down, after 2014, in 2016, part 1 has been modified. Part 1 has been modified. So whatever changes have taken place in part 1, they will come in part 2 only as and when next version of part 2 comes. So this 2014 version of part 2 is based on 2002 version of 1893 part 1. Therein it was written that for RC tanks it should be 5%, and for steel structures damping should be 2%. But in 2016 version it says 5% damping for all types of materials, okay. So here damping for impulsive mode as per present code will be 5% for RCC, 2% for this thing. And for convective mode, okay, 0.5% damping. See, sloshing of liquid has very less damping, okay, and that doesn't depend on tank material, okay, whether steel tank or RCC tank or any other material of the tank, sloshing will be same. It depends on only geometrical ratio, okay, and its damping is 0.5%. So for 0.5%, there is a 1.75 multiplying factor. So our 1893 Respectra is given at 5% damping. So for other damping ratios, this table, of course, now this table is not there. Otherwise, for 0% damping, multiplying factor is 3.2. 2% damping, multiplying factor is 1.4. 5% damping, multiplying factor is 1, obviously. For 7%, 0.9, 8%, 0.8, like this, okay. So if damping is more, multiplying factor is less. Otherwise, whatever response factor is given is for 5% damping, okay. So in water tank sloshing, we have to take 0.5% damping, somewhere in between this. So our value should be between 3.2 and 1.4. So 1.75 has been given. Okay. So that will have to be multiplied. Okay. Because so when you calculate SA by G corresponding to convective part, this SA by G will have to be multiplied by 1.75. Okay. Now, importance factor, the two values are suggested. If tank is important, okay, it is containing some hazardous material, or its firefighting services, it is required for that, or post-earthquake needs are there, then 1.5, otherwise 1. Okay, then R value. Okay, now the R value for elevated tank. Okay, we start with elevated tank. Okay, if elevated tank is resting on moment resisting frame, and if moment resisting frame is SMRF, then R value is 4. If it is on OMRF, then R value is 2.5. Okay, so these corresponding values for building were 5 and 3. So for water tank, it is 4 and 2.5. That is what is given in the code. Okay, for elevated tanks on RC frame. Okay, if there is an elevated tank, okay, there is an elevated tank which is resting on shaft, RC shaft. Okay, that is INZ tank. Then depending on that shaft, how it has been detailed, if it has only one layer of reinforcement, then R value will be 2.5. If it has 2 layers of reinforcement in the shell on both the faces, then 3.5, and things like that. Okay, so R value in part 2 are little bit less than what is given for building. Okay, there is a reason for that. Okay, we'll quickly discuss about that. Then for ground supported tank also R values are given. Okay, now R value, okay, depends on this discussion we have seen in building. Okay, depends on ductility, redundancy, and overstrength. And obviously in building there are walls, in building there are slab at every level, and those things do not exist in water tanks. Okay, in ground supported water tank there is nothing to dissipate the energy, that's why R values are less. In elevated tank it will be only RC frame which will have to consume the energy, or the shaft, and they have very less ductility. Okay, so that is why R values are less. Okay, but this IITK GSDMA document, okay, it gives still less values of R. It gives still less values of R. That is one of the major difference between part 2 and IITK GSDMA document. Though methodology is same, spring mass model and all those things are same, but these R values are different. Okay, and there are reasons for that. Okay, we won't go into details of that. If you compare our code with other international codes, okay, we'll find that in all other international codes, the design seismic forces for tanks are 2.5 to 3 times higher than the design forces for building. So if you follow that logic, then our R value should be as less as 3 or 2.5. Okay, fine. Once all these calculations are done, AHI into all the impulsive masses and AHC into convective masses, then you calculate force corresponding to everything. This is force corresponding to top roof slab, MW is force corresponding to wall, MI is slosh, impulsive liquid, MC is this. Okay, and then calculate the moment corresponding to each one, like MI will be multiplied by HI, MW will be multiplied by HW, center of gravity of wall, and things like that, and calculate the total overturning moments. Okay, like this. Okay, this is for ground supported tank. Similarly, for elevated tank also we can do that. Okay, the elevated tank, you will have, now see, in elevated tanks roof slab is here, so that will also be subjected to differential pressure. Okay, so we will have to use HI star and HC star rather than HI and HC. Okay, and then calculate total overturning moment at the base because of overturning moment produced by them. Okay, so that can be calculated. Okay, now, so load calculation for water tank is having one major difference: sloshing. Okay, inclusion of sloshing. So because of sloshing, then we have MC and MI, and because of that there are 2 horizontal forces and they have to be properly combined, or overturning effect because of both of them will have to be properly calculated. Okay, now another additional thing for seismic analysis of water tank is that tank should also be analyzed for empty condition. Okay, see, it is true that in empty condition weight of the tank will be less, but then its time period will also get reduced because under root m by k, time period is 2 pi under root m by k, mass is less. So you may have more SA by J value. Okay, so that should be properly analyzed for empty condition also. Okay, fine. Now, direction of the earthquake force. In building, we have seen that if building frames are orthogonal to each other, then you should apply only x direction force once and then y direction force once. Okay, they need not be added together. For water tank, what code says, okay, that we should apply the earthquake force for critical direction. Now, what is the meaning of critical direction? Okay, pictorially we will explain like this. Suppose there is a water tank with this 4 column. You apply earthquake force in this direction, you will get maximum force, okay, in bracings, in beams, in these beams. If you apply force diagonally like this, diagonally, okay, then you will get maximum axial force in column. Okay, maximum axial force in column. Okay, so for column design, you will have to apply earthquake force in this direction. For brace design, you will have to apply in this direction. Similarly, for 6 column staging, there will be one critical direction for brace, another critical direction for column. Okay, so if you have some arbitrary configuration of staging plan, you will have to check for which direction things will be critical. Okay, so critical direction for column could be different, critical direction for braces could be different, so that care should be taken. Okay, otherwise it says you can apply 130 rule. Okay, apply 100% in x and 30% in y, and then go ahead with SRSS rule. If 130 you can apply, or you can use SRSS also, full x, full y, and their square root and sum of its squares. Now, there are series of formulas given in this code to calculate the pressure. Okay, now whatever we have calculated so far is the earthquake force and where that force should be applied. That was the discussion so far. Now, pressure will be exerted on wall. Okay, pressure will be exerted on wall. So various graphs are given for different H by D value, that how much will be the hydrodynamic pressure on the wall because of impulsive nature, okay, and similarly because of the convective nature. Okay, so these are given for circular tanks as well as rectangular tanks. Okay, then pressure distribution on base slab, that is also given. Okay, on horizontal slab, how pressure will be exerted. For that also series of graphs are given. Okay, for circular as well as for rectangular tank. Okay, impulsive pressure distribution as well as convective pressure distribution on wall is given. This is convective. Okay, which is having more value at top level and it becomes very less as you go to the bottom. Okay, so similarly convective pressure on slab, that is also given. Okay, so these formulas I won't go into details of that. They are given for circular as well as rectangular tank. Now, once you have this kind of pressure distribution on the wall, okay, see for wall design, okay, we use IS 3370. In IS 3370, moment coefficient, shear coefficients are given for uniform pressure on the wall and for rectangular pressure. So this parabolic distribution is converted into equivalent trapezoidal this thing distribution, okay, equivalent, so that area under this and this should be same. And then similarly for convective, this type of trapezoid, and all parameters required are given: BC, AC, QC. Okay, this is AC, this is BC, this is QC. All those can be calculated. Okay, because you know the original distribution, so you know the area of that graph. So this trapezoid is divided into one uniform plus one triangle. Okay, and for both these cases, the bending moment calculation can be done using IS 3370 because those coefficients are available. Okay, for hoop and for radial direction. Okay, then rest of it is all smaller things which are given. Vertical pressure you can account. Okay, the so liquid weight will have to be increased or decreased depending on direction of the earthquake. There will be wall, okay, inertia force on wall, that can be included. Okay, and then all these impulsive and convective components, they can be combined. So total pressure which you will use for designing the wall, they can be combined using SRSS. Okay, convective square plus vertical square plus impulsive square. Now in impulsive water and wall both are added. Then there is a formula to calculate sloshing height. Okay, so how much freeboard should be provided in the water tank? That should be more than this D max sloshing height. Sloshing height will be nothing but H of convective component into response reduction factor into D by 2 or L by 2, depending on whether circular tank or rectangular tank. Here, what code says, this 2 mass idealization need not be used every time. Okay, but it is very simple. There is no need to not to use it. But if tanks are of smaller size, okay, then one can use entire liquid as impulsive. Okay, that is what it says. Okay. Then there are miscellaneous clauses on piping. Wherever piping meets the tank at that joint, damage occurs during ground shaking. So how to take care of that? Buckling of shell, steel tanks, okay, supported on ground, they are susceptible to buckling during shaking. Okay, buried tanks, okay. Then shear transfer, container to staging portion, that jointing should be very good because shear will be transferred there. Okay. Aesthetics, okay. Elevated water tanks are prominently in public view. They are visible from long distances. They become landmark on a particular landscape. Hence, their forms and shapes other than rectangular, they should be encouraged. Okay. See, as a structural engineer, we tend to have very regular geometries. Okay. So IS has put this clause just to say that don't be very rigid. Okay. If there are other shapes of container coming to you, suitably do their analysis and design them. Okay. Then quality control issues. Okay. And as I said, quality control issue strictly is not 1893's scope, but realizing the fact that they are very important structures and they have to be constructed using special these things. Okay, special centering, special provisions are required for construction of container also. So some clauses are given. I will just flash one or two of them. Let us say for RC frame staging, minimum column size should be 400 mm. Okay, if water tank is small, smaller than 200 meter cube, okay, then column size will be 300, but never it should be less than 300 mm, preferably not less than 400 mm. Okay, reinforcement detailing should be done as per 13920. Okay, vertical direction between two brace level, column should not go out of plumb by more than 20 mm. More than 20 mm. Okay, second thing. Okay. Another clause on for brace given, minimum width of brace shall not be less than 1/30th of its clear length. Whatever is the length of the brace, its width should not be less than 1/30th of that. Okay. Then for shaft, minimum 150 mm thickness should be there, up to 4 meter diameter. Then up to 8 meter diameter, 150 plus D minus 4000 divided by 80. So as the diameter of the shaft increases, its minimum thickness also increases. Okay, then how reinforcement should be provided in shaft. Okay, so this type of quality control in construction is given. Okay, circumferential bars, okay, in a shaft, and vertical bars, there is minimum spacing and things like that. Okay, LD, okay, like this, these provisions for quality control are given. Okay, so with that, we will come to the end of this discussion. Okay, strong column, weak beam. Okay, so to conclude, we'll say that between building and water tank, between building and liquid storage tanks, there are certain differences. Okay, so the main difference is in terms of sloshing. Okay, because in water tank, liquid will slosh. In a liquid storage tank, liquid will slosh. So sloshing should be properly accounted for. So weight calculation changes, time period calculation changes. Okay, there are two time periods now. Okay, impulsive time period, convective time period. Okay, and that is how load calculation becomes different. R value obviously are different for water tanks. Okay, for water tanks, depending on what type of tank is there, it is buried or ground supported or elevated. Critical direction for water tank should be ascertained. Hydrodynamic pressure on wall should be properly calculated, and then using IS 3370, wall should be designed. Okay, and sloshing height provisions. Okay, to calculate the sloshing height of the liquid. Okay, when it will slosh, so that liquid doesn't hit the roof slab. Okay, So that's all. Okay, with that we conclude. Okay, and then if there are questions, I'll take up them.
So participants can ask the question now, please.
There are a couple of them here. There is one by Pritesh Parmar, asked at 11:45. Which book can be used as a reference for seismic design analysis of water tank? Now, those RCC books which deal with the topic of design of water tank. See, first water tank should be designed for water load and vertical dead load, lie load. Okay, and depending on container shape. Okay, for injet tank there are detailed provisions. Okay, for rectangular tanks there are provisions. Similarly for circular tank. So in those books there must be some provision on wind analysis of elevated water tank. Okay, or seismic analysis. Okay. Other than that, this IITK GSDMA document, okay, is good enough. It is written in codal manner, but still it has commentary also. So that will help you. Okay.
फिल्टर घ्यायला येतो पण जमलं काय कारण काय होतं असे फोन आले ना अर्जंट मध्ये.
Yeah. So that was the one question I could see in question answer box.
Sir, can I ask one question?
Please.
Sir, does the number of columns in elevated tanks have some effect on the torsional effects in elevated water tanks?
Yes. Now,
So there should is there any prescribed minimum number of columns?
Minimum number of columns obviously have to be 4 depending on this, isn't it? Now see, this
No,
is
but
one
with,
configuration.
because of the consideration of the torsion.
Because of not only because of consideration of torsion. Okay, torsion mode should be avoided. Okay, obviously. Okay, and you are able to see the screen. This
Yes,
with 6 column, isn't it? Then there is one on 8 column. Okay, and then this 4 column. Okay, so these are the typical ones. But then you have other also wherein there are columns inside the this periphery also. Okay, torsional mode should be avoided not only in water tanks but in not only in elevated water tanks but also in buildings. Okay, but
yes, sir.
it is not a game of just number of columns. It will be the game of how columns are configured. What is the plan shape of that? Okay, so there is nothing written that if you have minimum this many columns, then torsion will be avoided. Minimum number of columns and their sizes will be dictated by tank capacity, soil condition, okay, and staging height which we have to go. Okay, but torsion should be avoided. Torsion should be avoided.
Yeah, actually, normally it is a symmetrical structure. We assume that there will not be any torsion, but there is this one IIT Kanpur paper is there. I think it was by Professor D.C. Rai. That in Jabalpur earthquake, there were many water tanks which failed in torsion. So they have prescribed some. That is why I'm.
In Jabalpur, there was a water tank which was on shaft, which got damaged. Okay, so shaft tanks, shaft are circular. Okay, but for frame staging, no frame staging. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, if there is a staircase present on one corner, no, and if it is rigidly attached to the staging, then it leads to torsional. It leads to unsymmetrical behavior. Even though your staging geometry is symmetrical, but because of presence of staircase, it leads to unequal distribution of stiffness and mass, and that is where problem comes. So that type of thing should be detached. There should be a gap between seismic staircase tower and main water tank. So those kind of precautions should be taken.
Okay, thank you.
So any other question from participants? So I want to highlight one thing that in this STDP, a very nice session was being conducted by our expert speaker. And in everyday feedback form, we are including the at least 3 objective questions based on each session. So in the evening session, through the feedback form, you have to submit this feedback along with the answers of these questions asked on all these sessions, 4 sessions. And all these questions then will be we will cover at the end of the STTP. Again, we will have a one objective test, final test, so that there could be a good interaction and the knowledge will get disseminated through all these interactive activity of this STTP. So I think that there is no any question from participants, or you can also have, if in further course you are having any question, you can directly type in the chat or you can send on the WhatsApp group. So I am forwarding all these questions to the experts, and in the later forthcoming sessions, they can also address the questions asked by the participants.
Yes, if that is there, then we say thanks to all the participants.
So thanks, sir. Dr. O.R. Jaiswal sir has conducted a very nice session, and a good insight of this information was presented. And now I find that this is very helpful session for all the today's participants. And in again, there are some few sessions by Dr. Jaiswal sir also in coming days. So I hope you will enjoy this STTP in further course of the duration. And now here for this session, we will stop here. And again, the next session will be start sharp at 1 p.m. It will be conducted by Dr. R.K. Ingre sir. And again, there one new other insight of IS code will be given there.
Yeah, this was part 2. Dr. Ingre will talk on part 3.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Bridges, yeah. I think somebody has raised their hand, Sridhar.
Yes, sir.
Please ask.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, sir, for actually educating us on this aspect. I have one question, sir. I am from Bangalore. Regarding irregularities topic, sir, which is the latest area in irregularities, so that we can actually go ahead with the research, sir. For research in irregularities, whether it is a vertical or a plan irregularity, which is the latest area wherein we can actually go for research?
Now, research, now see any type of irregularity in the building, particularly, okay, it leads to some critical issues, some additional issues, which should be properly brought to the notice of designer.
Yeah.
For example, if building is on sloping ground, then we know torsion will be present. So code has given certain provisions for how to handle torsion. Okay. If suppose there is a large opening in the slab, then what will happen? Okay. So knowledge is to be generated depending on what type of geometry or irregularity we have at hand.
Okay.
Nowadays, many buildings with flat slab and without any column, all RCC wall and then flat slab, and they are subjected to lateral forces. Okay.
Yes, sir.
How they will fare in terms of energy consumption, energy dissipation, that knowledge also needs to be properly strengthened and enhanced.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are many such issues which need more and more nonlinear analysis, pushover analysis, incremental dynamic analysis. So you consider any type of irregularity. Now see, whatever is given in the code is just some standard things, isn't it? Nowadays, you find that architects come with new types of irregularities.
Yes,
so
sir.
for each one of them, a detailed investigation will be required before somebody can comment on the energy dissipation and its performance-based approach.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, in here, mathematics concerned, before we going for research in earthquakes, which is the area we have to concentrate more, sir, in dynamics concerned, which is the area we have to actually revise one more time before actually taking up research in dynamics concerned, mathematics point of view.
Yeah, now see, this has become a very, so to say, I don't know, very unfortunate and peculiar situation we are in, isn't it? engineers have developed a sort of some distance relationship with maths.
Yeah.
It should not happen. Which should not have happened. All the students who enter engineering college, they enter through JEE, and in JEE and IEEE, maths is the main subject.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But then as soon as they come to BE first year, maths 1 and maths 2 become the horror. So that should not happen. Okay, whatever maths is covered in maths 1, maths 2 in any engineering college,
Yes, sir.
that should be very well cemented with all the engineers. Everybody should be good in matrix analysis. Everybody should be comfortable with ordinary differential equation. Okay, and those type of topics which are required here, isn't it? Like time period, if you have to find, you have to solve the eigenvalue problem. So you should be good in matrix. Okay, if you have to find out the time history analysis, then you have to do ordinary differential equation. So our students and engineers should be, they should not run away from the maths. They should remain cemented to the maths. Okay,
Yes,
but
sir.
somehow it has so happened in last 10-15 years, okay, that maths has become a taboo for engineers,
Yeah.
which is very unfortunate. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Khandwaji. Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank
all the
you.
best. All
Yeah.
the best.
Thank you. Okay, so goodbye to all, and now we will end the meeting here. Thank you once again for being with us, and today soon we will meet at 1 p.m. again. Thank you.